connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Thank you, Tina, Eric, and Nylea. It was lovely. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. I'm Rebecca Howard, and I am a worship associate for this congregation. Our minister, the Reverend John Cull, is on vacation, and today I'm delighted to welcome our own Theresa Cull, who will speak on labels and what they mean. Theresa has been a member of the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos for about 25 years and is currently a youth leader and is serving on the board of directors. Welcome, Theresa. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person and a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are at this moment, and wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome to this place of memory and hope, where we share our joys and our struggles in our quest for what is good and true. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors or first-time guests we have among us this morning. I invite you to pick up a welcome packet from our greeters in the foyer, if you haven't done so already, and we invite you to talk to any of us after the service and return again next week when Reverend John will be back in the pulpit, and he would love to meet you then. I don't see any new parents, but if anyone out there is watching and would like to come, we encourage you to speak with Tina DeYoe, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education. And young children are welcome at the intention table or here on the young worshipers space. And there aren't any kids, so. But if anyone comes later, they are welcome. Everybody is invited to join us after the service for coffee and conversation in our fellowship hall. At this time, I remind you to silence your cell phones and other noise-making devices as we begin this morning's service. Again, welcome to all of you, whether you are watching the live stream or are here in the sanctuary. We are glad you are here with us.
Into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, we bless this place. In its shelter, we know ourselves blessed. Let us open our minds and our hearts to one another as we gather for worship on this beautiful, although smoky, morning. Would you all please rise as you're willing and able for our opening hymn, number 360, Here We Have Gathered. Please remain standing for our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each and with all. Please be seated. Candles have been lit today in gratitude for those who worked on cleaning up the church grounds yesterday and for the delicious lunch prepared by Janet Van Cleve, and for all of those that contribute to the life of this church. Candles also been lit for the victims of the Hermit Peak and Calf Canyon fire and everyone suffering from the smoke. A candle was lit for everyone struggling with negative labels, for those trapped in terror in Mariupol and other Ukrainian towns, and on this May Day, for the workers who gave their lives for better wages and benefits so that we don't have to work today. Let's have a moment of silence. So I want you to get comfortable, relax, maybe close your eyes, and try to imagine what someone who fits the following labels might look like in your mind based on your experiences. Black, white, old, young, woman, man, rich, poor, immigrant, criminal, boss, feminist, nurse, socialist, conservative, gay, transgender, queer, non-binary, Christian, Unitarian Universalist, multiracial, foreigner, American. Let's join us in the meditation hymn number 396.
and I would like to invite the young or young at heart to come forward this morning, and you can sit. Oh, thanks. Thanks, guys. Hello. So, how many of you know our first UU principle? Yeah, maybe some of you, maybe not all of you, I don't know. The respect for the inherent worth and dignity of everyone. Or, in the kids' version, everyone is important. So, what do you think this means? Well, to me, it means that everyone should be accepted no matter all our differences. So I have a sticker on my water bottle that says just that we should love our neighbors. So we should love thy neighbor, thy immigrant neighbor, thy black neighbor, thy atheist neighbor, thy Muslim neighbor, thy depressed neighbor, thy conservative neighbor, thy LGBTQIA neighbor, thy disabled neighbor, thy indigenous neighbor, thy Jewish neighbor, thy progressive neighbor, thy incarcerated neighbor, thy homeless neighbor, thy Latinx neighbor, thy addicted neighbor, thy millennial neighbor, and thy fill-in-the-blank neighbor. You can fill in all, some of what Theresa said in her meditation too, right? So we should love our neighbors, no exceptions, because according to our first UU principle, everyone is important. Thank you for your help. All of us are different, and that is what makes us all so important and unique and special. But sometimes people aren't as good at celebrating all of our beautiful differences as humans. Sometimes people treat others badly because they have a different skin color than them, or because they live in a family that has two dads, or because they look different than them. Sometimes these people who have been treated badly by others or called bad names feel like they cannot be their true self. So sometimes they feel like they have to hide or run away. Maybe some of you can remember a time you might have been treated badly because someone thought you were different. I remember when I was bullied for different things, like my nose being too big. So there's this song that talks about people being brave and standing up for who they are and who they are meant to be, even when other people treat them badly. This song is called "This Is Me." Some of the lyrics say, "I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me." This song is a fight song for people who aren't accepted by society. This song was written by Ben Pasek and Justin Paul, and Ben Pasek, I can't say his last name, who said, "I'm a gay man who grew up in the closet when I was a teenager. You experience the world telling you that you're not lovable, you're unwanted, or something about you is broken, and you feel like you have to fix yourself or hide yourself." So this song speaks to all of us who have not always been able to embrace our differences and uniqueness. This song speaks to our first UU principle of reminding us that we are all important and we should be proud of our differences. This song speaks to all those who have experienced racism, sexism, homophobia, ableism, ageism, transphobia, or discrimination or oppression of any kind. So, as you do your intention table activity today, which is some worksheets you can pick up, I am proud of myself, so you can talk about how you're proud of yourself, and you're proud to be you, so you can color yourself there. And then another page that talks about "this is me," right? So that is our intention table. And you can do that while you listen to the lyrics of this song, This Is Me, that I'm going to sing next, and with Nylea and Eric. And after the song, Theresa is going to speak more on this topic too. But all I want you to remember today is that you are important. Can you repeat that after with me? I am important. And then you can point to someone near you and tell them that they are important too by saying, you are important. Awesome. And then we can repeat this all together, that we are important. We are important. All right, and that's our time for all ages. Thank you for coming up, guys.
To the dark, hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors, and that's what we've become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut you down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. This is me. The sharpest words wanna cut me down. Gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bold, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared
Thank you, Tina, Nylea, and Eric. We are surrounded by labels. They're on our products that we buy at the grocery store, on our shoes, and other clothing, on a sign posted in front of this building. Labels help us make choices and help define things and distinguish one thing from another. But those aren't the labels that I'm here to talk about today. What I'm here to talk about is how we label people and what those labels mean to the labeler and to the person being labeled. Years ago, as I was starting a new job, I was told that I was going to be sharing an office. I didn't know the person I was going to be sharing with. All I knew was that he was an old white guy, and I assumed there was probably a reason why there was an open space in his office. I don't know why, but I assumed that this old white guy was likely to be conservative and anti-gay. But as I entered the office, the first thing I noticed was a sticker on his whiteboard that read, "Rush Limbaugh is a big fat liar." I knew right away that we would get along just fine. And as we really got to know each other, we did become good friends. For those of you who don't know, Rush Limbaugh was a radio talk show host and author who made a lot of controversial and hateful statements about race, feminism, and gay people, among other things. As you can see, applying a label to someone led me to make assumptions about that person based on a stereotype that in this case wasn't true, rather than that person's individual characteristics. I'm not even sure what caused me to make those assumptions. Maybe it was Rush Limbaugh, I don't know. If I hadn't been forced to share an office with this person, we probably would have never become friends. I would have done what a lot of people do, avoid a connection with this person because I thought I already knew who he was, and who he was didn't align with my value system. So how can we teach ourselves to overlook the labels and stereotypes and really get to know someone? If we really want to understand people, we need to focus on their words and actions, their stories, not just their labels. Here's a story from Zaid Jilani, a writer for Greater Good magazine. In 1983, a white man named Gary Nye walked into an all-white music venue in Maryland, and he noticed that a black man was playing in an otherwise all-white country band. He approached the musician and told him, "I really like y'all's music. This is the first time I ever heard a black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis." The piano player, a musician named Daryl Davis, replied that Jerry Lee Lewis was inspired by black musicians. The man didn't believe Davis, but liked his music so much, he was willing to have a drink with Davis and talk about their shared love of piano music. He told Davis he had never had a drink with a black man before. Davis wanted to know why, and that's when the man said he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Despite being a Klansman, the man became a regular at Davis's performances because he learned to see Davis as a great individual piano player rather than a group stereotype. Ultimately, Davis discovered the man was kicked out of the local KKK chapter. When later asked why he left the KKK, Gary Nye gestured at Davis and replied, "I met him." By getting to know him, Gary Nye was able to see Daryl Davis as a human being rather than a label with negative stereotypes. Even if the label somewhat accurately identifies someone, using a label to describe someone ignores the other qualities that make that person who they are. Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie warns against defining someone by a single story. In her TED Talk, entitled "The Danger of a Single Story," she says, "Our lives, our cultures are composed of many overlapping stories," and warns that if we hear only a single story about another person or country, we risk a critical misunderstanding. She says that if you show people as one thing and only one thing over and over again, that's what they become. The single story creates stereotypes, and even if they are true, they create an incomplete story. She says the single story robs people of dignity and emphasizes how people are different rather than how they are similar. If you get a chance, I recommend viewing her talk. It's very informative and entertaining. Rebecca and I can provide a link. I've talked about how labeling can affect the labeler, so let's talk about how the labels affect the person being labeled. I think a good place to start is one of the very first labels we receive when we are born, and actually sometimes even before we're born. Boy or girl. Seems pretty simple, right? But did you know that depending on how you define it, almost 2% of newborns are identified as intersex? This means that they may have any of several sex characteristics that do not fit the typical binary notions of male or female. Because of the pressure to label a baby as either a boy or a girl, some infants are subjected to medical interventions to modify their sex characteristics. These babies may grow up to feel like they're in the wrong body. Even when the baby is labeled correctly based on the external sex characteristics, that baby may grow to feel like they aren't the sex that they were assigned. Or they may decide that they don't conform to the stereotypes assumed by the label they received. Human sexuality is complicated. It's not as easy as boy or girl. According to Healthline, there's actually 47 terms or labels that describe sexual attraction, behavior, and orientation. Recently, Supreme Court Justice nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked if she could provide a definition for the word woman. During her hearing, she responded, "I'm not a biologist." I think that was a good answer. Sometimes it's hard to understand the labels someone assigns themselves. I once met a man who identified as a gay man, but he was also transgender. In other words, he was labeled as female at birth, but identified as a man who loved men. All I could think was, wouldn't it have been easier to be a woman who loves men? But that wasn't who he was, and I don't have to understand it to accept it. Human sexuality really is complicated. Cultural or racial labels can be complicated as well. In my early days at the laboratory, I worked closely with two technicians. One of the technicians identified as Greek with dark hair and light brown skin, and the other identified as Hispanic with red hair, light skin, and freckles. I remember working on a project in Albuquerque, and another Hispanic worker who didn't know us began to speak in Spanish to the Greek technician. The Greek technician had no idea what the worker was saying, and he surprised the worker when he turned to the other technician, the one with the red hair and light skin, to ask him what the worker was saying. Have you ever been asked the question, "Where are you from?" I'm never really sure how to answer that question. Should I say where I came from before I moved to New Mexico? And that would mean I'm a Texan. Should I say where I was born? That would make me a New Yorker. Should I talk about my ancestors immigrating to the United States? That would make me half Irish. Or should I be more specific about what I am and mention that I'm 1/4 Jewish? How do people with multiple cultural or racial backgrounds label themselves? Prior to the 2000 census survey, Americans could choose only one race on the census form. If one of your parents is black and the other is white, do you choose black or white? Early census surveys actually had an M for mulatto and terms like quadroon for someone with 1 black and 3 white grandparents, and octoroon for someone with 1 black great-grandparent. Interestingly, there was no specific category for someone with, say, a Chinese mother and a Latino father. Fortunately, those offensive terms no longer exist, and people can choose multiple categories to label themselves. Some people of multiple cultural or racial backgrounds adjust how they describe themselves according to the situation. Even Christine Hall, the pioneer scholar who popularized the term multiracial, doesn't have a single answer for the question, "What are you?" Hall says she often introduces herself in terms of her specific lineage, but it all depends on the context. Hall says, in an African American group, I would say, I am mixed, or my mother was Japanese. I don't need to say the African American part because most African Americans know I am part Black. But our answer changes in different groups and has changed over time. Labels may be intentionally used to attempt to insult a person or group of people. I'm sure you've heard some politicians referring to their opponents as woke. According to the online dictionary, woke means alert to injustice and discrimination in society, especially racism. It doesn't sound like an insult to me, but woke is currently being used to somehow denigrate people who disagree with the beliefs of the labeler. It's interesting that the label originated in Black communities many years ago. Stay woke came to mean to stay vigilant in a world that's stacked against you. When police officers shot and killed Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Black Lives Matter activists used hashtag Stay Woke as a rallying cry to raise awareness about police shootings of Black Americans, along with hashtags for each new incident of an unarmed Black person killed by law enforcement. I'm just fine being woke, but the labeler wants me to feel ashamed by making it sound like a bad thing. This is an example of a label that has a different meaning depending on the audience. I'm sure you can think of others. Some labels can be harmful, can negatively affect our self-esteem, and may even hold us back. Some common negative identity labels include loser, lazy, stupid, selfish, ugly, fat, and weak. If I'm labeled this way, or I label myself this way, I may think that I can't break free of the label, and the label could have detrimental effects on my health and well-being. Some labels come with erroneous assumptions or stereotypes that it may affect the behavior of the labeled person and can create prejudice, which can lead to discrimination. For example, if I'm a girl, I'm not supposed to be good at math, so I may choose not to study engineering. If I'm a boy, I'm supposed to be tough, so I may avoid taking dance classes, or I may decide not to become a nurse. Some time ago, Target stores decided to remove gender labeling on their toy aisles in an attempt to eliminate unnecessary social labels for girls who want to play with Hot Wheels and boys who want to play with Barbies. And Hasbro decided to ungender their potato head toys so that kids could make them whatever they want, given the limitations of the body parts provided. Maybe it would just be better not to label people. But there are times when labeling certain people can be positive. For example, the first openly gay football player, or the first female state representative, or the first Black astronaut. By acknowledging these trailblazers with specific labels, people who share similar labels know that they too can break free from the stereotypes associated with those labels. I have to confess that I chose this topic today because I'm actually tired of the personal attacks that I see in the media, in politics, and in our community. Rather than discussing an issue and trying to understand the other person's point of view, we call each other names, or we get angry and withdraw because someone with a certain label isn't living up to our expectations of that label, or we just choose to dismiss someone with a certain label because it's easier than trying to understand them. Even in our own congregation, some of us assume that Unitarian Universalists means that we share similar beliefs, that we are all like-minded. I challenge you to think about the labels you assign to others and to challenge your beliefs and the stereotypes you associate with those labels. For someone who you think you know, or find someone that you think you know, based on a label you assign them and that they assign themselves, and spend some time getting to know that person. Listen to their whole story and tell them yours. At a minimum, you might find that you share some common ground. And who knows, you also just might make a new friend.
Thank you, Theresa. I love coming here and learning new things and ways to think about things. So, thanks. Before we move on, maybe I didn't, there. Before we conclude this morning's service, I'd like to remind you that announcements and information about upcoming events can be found on our website, in our weekly emails, and our Facebook page, and in this month's issue of The Voice. In particular, this is the last day, right, to sign up for the Women's Retreat. You can do that online or talk to Tina. Then Reverend John's 15th anniversary celebration with the church is next week. Since he's on vacation this week, it wouldn't make much sense to celebrate without him. So join us for coffee and cake in the fellowship hall after the service next week. Our annual meeting will take place after the service on the following Sunday, May 15th. Annual reports and ballots should arrive in the mail soon, and just watch your mail and announcements email list for more details. If you haven't returned your pledge form for next year, please do so as soon as possible. The board is working on the budget for next year and needs to know what funds to expect in order to continue the work of the church. And finally, if you liked the wonderful This Is Me song that Tina sang, Coro de Camera is doing a concert this afternoon at 3 p.m. at Trinity on the Hill, and they will be singing that song and other songs from Broadway productions. And I think that's it. So it is time for our offering. This is our opportunity to share some of what we have with the wider world. Our Share the Plate partner for this month is the Espanola Pathways Shelter. The shelter provides individuals 18 and over and their families access to a low-barrier emergency shelter, transitional housing, comprehensive care, and essential services towards meeting their personal goals. 100% of all offered this month will be given to our partner. If you prefer, you can use the Givelify app or givelify.com. May the offertory music lift your spirits, and may what you give bring you joy.
Our time together here is finished, but our work is not done. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve be strengthened as we meet the challenges of the week to come. This chalice flame is extinguished until we ignite it again with the spark of our communion. Would you all please rise for our closing song? Number 407, we're going to sit at the welcome table.
Next week, Reverend John will be back with his question box. And now, go in peace to the fellowship hall for refreshments and conversation.